My game of the week, the Detroit Lions going on the road to take on the New York Jets. The Lions beat Minnesota last week. You may think it was an upset. However, Detroit actually was a favorite in that game. I had a homie of mine who hit me up before that, and he was like, JT, why is Detroit a favorite over the Minnesota Vikings? Is this a trap? I told him no. You want to know why the Detroit Lions are favorites over the Minnesota Vikings? Because they're actually a really good team now. The Detroit Lions are healthy, or they're getting healthier. You have the offense playing at a really high level. Jared Goff, the disrespect has to stop. Let's take a moment to give Jared Goff his flowers. He hasn't thrown an interception since week 9 against the Green Bay Packers. He is completing 65.3% of his passes. He's thrown 22 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions, and he's thrown for 3,352 passing yards. You may wonder, how is Jared Goff going to perform against this New York Jets defense? I think he's going to have a pretty good afternoon. The Jets do have a really good pass rush, but their leading pass rusher, Quentin Williams, is questionable for this game with a calf injury that he suffered in their loss to the Bills last week. He leads the team with 11 sacks. Not to mention, the Detroit Lions have one of the top 3 best offensive lines in the game right now. It's really tough to get your hands on Jared Goff. I think we're going to have a really good battle up front between the defensive line of the New York Jets and the O-line of Detroit. The Lions wide receivers versus the New York Jets secondary, though, is probably going to be the matchup that most of us are going to have our eyes on. That's probably going to be where this game could be won or lost at if you're the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets. The Jets, their defense has to carry them. Mike White, he's okay for your current quarterback situation. However, the Jets still have probably the worst quarterback situation in the league right now. Mike White, he's just enough to keep you functional on offense. The thing with Mike White is that he was good against the Chicago Bears, but against Minnesota, he struggled. And last week, he wasn't all that great neither, even though he did have some really big throws that he made on third down. He did have a couple of flashes here and there, but ultimately, he played average. For the New York Jets, you can't just rely on your defense every single week to carry you. Are you going to be able to play complementary football in this game against the Detroit Lions? This is a Detroit Lions team that, yes, your defense is probably going to be able to keep their offense at bay for a couple of quarters. But it doesn't mean that your offense just goes ahead and only puts up 3-6 points and continues to go 3 and out almost every single drive. The Jets have to be able to do more on offense to win this game. Even if you do keep the Detroit Lions under 24 points, can the Jets even get 17 points? Yes, Jets fans are going to say, JT, Detroit doesn't have a good defense. No, the Lions don't have a good defense. However, it's not going to be that hard to come up with a game plan for how to slow down the New York Jets offense. The New York Jets, when they don't have the run game going, they don't have anything going on offense. You saw what happened last week. This team was put in hell of third and long situations, but they did a really good job at converting. When you put the Jets in situations where they have to throw the football to win, they don't have a lot of success doing it because they don't have good enough quarterback play to beat you through the air. That's their weakness. Quarterback. Everything else is pretty fine. The offensive line is banged up with a lot of injuries, but this offensive line still, I think, is serviceable enough to get you into the postseason. Wide receiver is good. Running back, Zonovan Knight is a beast. I have him on my fantasy squad. Last week against Buffalo, 17 carries, 71 rushing yards, and he had a rushing touchdown as well. The Jets have to get him going in this ball game. Personally, I think for the Jets, you probably want to keep this as a low-scoring game. I don't think New York wants this game to end up being a shootout. Even though if it goes that way, if you're in a shootout with the Detroit Lions and you should be feeling really good about your chances at that point, because then your offense showed that it can score some points. But I don't think this game is going to be a shootout. I think this game, if New York wins it, is going to be a low-scoring affair. The Jets offense is more of a methodical offense, and not an offense that's based on throwing the football deep several times a game. They like to get the run game going to set up the short intermediate passing game and get Mike White into rhythm. The Detroit Lions defensive line, I kind of think, has played a lot better than what the statistics show. Aiden Hutchinson probably is going to be the front runner for Rookie of the Year in a lot of people's eyes. But so is Sauce Gardner. If you're somebody who is a fan of the New York Jets, who's going to make the bigger play in this game? Aiden Hutchinson against the New York Jets. You're going against a offensive line that is banged up. So this should be a game where he can come in and leave his imprint. And for the Detroit Lions defensive line, you got to be able to make sure that you can win on early downs against the New York Jets. Because when the Jets can't have success on first and second down, and you put them in the third and long situations, that's going to help out your pass rush, because now you guys can pin their ears back and get after it. If you can't win on early downs, your defense is most likely going to struggle. One thing about the New York Jets, if they get in the third and medium and third and short, they convert hell of often. The reason for that is because they have the whole playbook at their disposal. Third and long, the only run play you're probably going to call is a draw in that situation. Third and medium, you can do anything. Third and short, you can do anything. For the New York Jets, offensively, their offensive line has to be able to show up in this game against the defensive line of the Detroit Lions. Last week against the Buffalo Bills, at times, it seemed like the Bills were just overwhelming the New York Jets up front. I don't think that the Jets should struggle offensively in this game. I do think that this should be a performance where we see the offense have some success, or at least more success than what they had last week against the Bills. The Lions, when it comes to their run defense against the Minnesota Vikings, they only allowed 22 rushing yards. The Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. Against Jacksonville, only 95 yards. But Buffalo had 169 on them. That was partly due to, Josh Allen doing what he does. But the New York Giants only had 89 yards with Saquon Barkley. This Lions team has showed over their last couple of games that they do have the ability to erase the run game from you. If this run game is not going for the New York Jets, do you trust Mike White and this passing attack to be able to get the job done? Detroit secondary isn't that great. However, they are more than capable of being able to produce turnovers. And that's something that many people overlook when it comes to this Detroit Lions defense. We give a lot of credit to Robert Saleh's defense because they don't allow a lot of yards. They don't give up a lot of points. You look at Detroit's defense, they give up a lot of yards and points. However, they get key stops and big moments of ball games. They're 6th in the NFL in giveaways. They don't turn the ball over that much on offense. But they definitely know how to get your offense to turn the football over because they're 10th in takeaways. They have Jeff Okudah playing at a high level. I'm really ready, or I hope that we get to see Garrett Wilson versus Jeff Okudah in this game if they end up lining up against each other. We get Ohio State on Ohio State, Buckeye versus Buckeye. That's going to be fun. You just look at the New York Jets in this game. If you're a Jets fan, you have confidence that you can keep the Detroit Lions to under 20 points. But can the Jets offense get to 20 points? That's the question. The Detroit Lions defense isn't that great, but it has played better over the course of last month. However, you can still have success on Detroit's defense as long as you can take care of the football. The Jets in this game, if you can get the run game going, you can take care of the football. You don't ask Mike White to do all that much. You should be in a position to win this game. For the Detroit Lions, you take away the run game and you're able to hang around for a couple of quarters into the fourth quarter, that's when you should be able to pull away. This defense is really good. They got a lot of talent and a lot of depth. So even if your defense is able to force the New York Jets offense to go 3 and out consecutive times, it's still going to be a little bit of a dogfight to score some points. It's going to take a while for this defense to bend. But eventually, if your defense can hold up, get enough stops, eventually that Jets defense, by the time you get to midway throughout the fourth quarter, that's where you should be able to somewhat be able to pull away and win this game. I think for the Lions, I would love to see them get out to a fast start. If they got out to a 17-3 lead going into halftime, I probably would feel really confident in the Lions being able to seal the deal at that point. The Jets aren't really a team that's built to come from behind, especially when you look at their current quarterback situation. This game is going to have a playoff feel. The Lions are trying to keep up with Washington and the New York Giants for possibly one of those last 2 seeds in the NFC for the postseason. Meanwhile, you have the New York Jets, who are fighting like hell for their playoff lives at 7-6, along with trying to keep pace with the Chargers and their divisional foes, the New England Patriots, who hold the tiebreaker over them. The team that I'm going with to win this game, this is tough. I'm going with Detroit. I think the Detroit Lions, I said it a couple of days ago on one of my previous episodes, that this is the most dangerous team in the NFL right now. Since starting 1-6, they have won 5 out of their last 6 games, with that only loss coming to the Buffalo Bills on Thanksgiving. The New York Jets, I love their defense. I do believe their defense can keep them in this game. I just don't really know how I feel about their offense. Yes, I know that Detroit doesn't have the greatest defense, but even though their defense isn't great, it's not like the Jets offense is good enough to take advantage of it. I'm taking the Detroit Lions to win this game. I believe they get to 7-7 after this win, and then that's where the whole world is going to start hopping on the Detroit Lions fan club, because I'm already on it, to be honest with you. The Steelers season is about over pretty much, so I might as well try to find another team to root for. If the Detroit Lions get to the playoffs, watch out. That's all I'm going to say.